Information discussed in this podcast may be sensitive in nature to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Jeannette and Dannette Millbrook weren't just twin sisters. They were best friends. At age 15, they still liked to do almost everything together. They weren't known to be troublemakers, and they had an extended network of friends and family around them in Augusta, Georgia. So when they didn't come home one evening as they were supposed to, and no one knew where they were, worry set in. But as one online publication noted, the investigation into their disappearance was practically over before it even began. Yet here we are, 33 years later, with no idea where the Millbrook twins are, and what happened to them that day, and why investigators refused to search for them. Where are Jeannette Latrice Millbrook and Dannette LaTanya Millbrook? Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of the Where Are They podcast. This case could be considered a cold case. It happened almost 33 years ago. But I think when you hear the details and what transpired in this case, you're going to be as outraged as if it just happened, maybe even more so. I've covered a lot of cases in which investigators drop the ball or they make mistakes, and sometimes I can understand that. Many departments are understaffed and underfunded, and they're very limited in what they can do. I also understand why the families are usually very frustrated with them. In most cases, being that I am on the outside looking in, I really can see both sides of the coin here. 2 teenage girls vanished in 1990. No matter what happened on that day, these girls have to be somewhere. Let's go back to the day it happened. I don't have much history on the girls, so we'll start on March 18th, 1990. This was a Sunday, and the girls just planned on chilling together for the day. Dannette and Jeannette began their Sunday as they always do, by going to church with their family. After church, the girls walked to a nearby church's chicken for lunch. When they got home afterwards, they mentioned to their mom that they thought a van might have been following them, and it freaked them out a bit. But it seemed they eventually shrugged it off. Maybe they thought they were wrong, or it was just their imagination. But it's important to note that they felt enough of a way about it to mention it to their mother. Their mom, Mary, who mostly goes by Miss Louise to everyone, took note of it and told the girls to be careful, but she really wasn't sure what to think. The girls then decided to walk to their godfather's house and borrow some money for the bus. He gave them $20 so they could go get themselves some snacks as well. From there, they went to their cousin's house. They wanted their cousin to come walk with them and go to this local gas station, convenience store, and get some snacks and candy. But their cousin wasn't allowed. Her mom had told her that it was going to be getting dark soon, and she didn't want them out after dark. So the girls headed out alone. They stopped at their older sister's home for a few minutes. The girls had hoped that maybe their sister would walk with them. But her sister had just had a baby, and this time she said she couldn't. So once again, the girls headed out alone. Now, what is interesting in all of this is her mother and her sister and her cousin and everyone that knew the girls had said this was uncharacteristic. They had never asked people to go walking with them before, and it seemed they really wanted someone else with them on that particular day. But it's really not sure why. After the girls left their sister's house, they walked to the gas station at the corner of 12th Street and Martin Luther King Boulevard. The clerk at the store, Gloria, knew both of the girls and remembered them coming in. She remembered they bought chips and candy and soda. She remembered them leaving. From there, we don't really know. One story is that they were going to be headed to a friend's house from there. Some reports said that they made it to the friend's house and then they left. But then other reports have said that they never did make it to that friend's house. After Jeannette and Dannette, who were fraternal twins, didn't come home that evening, their mother tried to call the police and report them missing. This wasn't like the girls at all. It was alleged that a comment was made about them being runaways and then told to wait 24 hours and call back to file a report if they still weren't home. Of course, her family checked in with everyone who they thought might know where the girls were. And this is how they were able to piece together the movements that afternoon and evening. But after the gas station, no one had seen them. The clerk at the gas station, Gloria, remembers the girls coming in. She said nothing seemed out of the ordinary to her, and she didn't recall seeing any suspicious vehicles or anything unusual outside. And she said their behavior seemed normal. But I have to think, with regards to a suspicious vehicle outside, if you aren't looking for one, would you always be inclined to notice it if there was one? Now, the girls had no history of doing anything like this. And overall, they were good girls. They weren't troubled. They weren't troublemakers. Something was definitely very wrong. The family did wait that 24 hours, and then they called to report the girls missing. But still, nothing was really done to find them. Law enforcement said that they were just certain that they were just runaways. Of course, that's terrible in and of itself, but it gets even worse. With law enforcement refusing to help, the family had to really take matters into their own hands. Just over a year later, in 1991, the parents called to check in on the progress of their daughter's case, as they had always done. They had been conducting their own search in this year, but they'd also continually checked in with law enforcement, trying desperately to get some help. But what they learned when they called the station on this day shocked them. Their case file had been completely closed. No one was investigating their disappearance at all. In 1993, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also allegedly received a report that the girls had been found, and they closed their file as well. When pressed for answers, they received different explanations depending on which law enforcement officer they spoke to. One said that they had officially confirmed the girls were okay, that they had been put in the foster care system, and they were eventually adopted out. But further investigation into that proved to be false. What a weird thing to tell the parents of two missing girls. Another said that since the girls had now turned 17, there wasn't anything they could do, as they legally cannot be forced or compelled to come home. So if that's the case, does this mean we can't investigate any missing adult cases too? And the third story they got was from a juvenile police detective who told them that the girls were found alive, but that was all he could tell them. So the case was closed. So which is it? Why all the different stories? Where did these stories even come from? And why could none of them be corroborated with any proof, any evidence? I feel frustrated for many families in these situations, but this one truly is heartbreaking. What a horrible feeling to try and get help regarding your daughters and continually have a door slammed in your face. Shanta Sturgis, Dannette and Jeanette's younger sister, was just 12 years old when they vanished, but she remembers it clearly. As an adult, she decided to take matters into her own hands and try and find her sisters. Her quest to have their case reopened began in 2004 when she continually pleaded with law enforcement to reopen the case. Nothing would happen, however, until 2013. On June 5th, 2013, Richmond County Sheriff Richard Roundtree, who had just been elected the year prior in 2012, announced that he was reopening the case. Finally, some action. Except when the sheriff went to go look into the case and have it reopened, he was shocked that not only had it been closed, there was no file on the case at all. It was like it never happened. The entire case file had vanished. So for 23 years, the girls weren't in the system at all. For 23 years. Sheriff Roundtree basically had to start from scratch. He worked with the family and had their DNA entered into the system. There were no familial matches to any Jane Does. Shanta also worked to get some media attention for the case, but was largely ignored. The Fall Line, a podcast that focuses on cold cases, dedicated a season to the girl's story in 2017. Another podcast, Unresolved, also covered their case in early 2018. Both of these podcasts would work together to raise the funds to offer a $10,000 reward and put up a billboard to seek out tips. In 2019, the Oxygen Network covered their case in a show called The Disappearance of the Millbrook Twins. So a little bit of attention has finally started to gather, but unfortunately hasn't brought forth many answers yet. So what happened to Dannette and Jeannette on that spring day in March in Augusta, Georgia? Did it have anything to do with that mysterious van they had seen earlier in the day? Augusta, Georgia does border the state of South Carolina, with the Savannah River running right in between. There are also many main highways nearby that can lead right to major cities like Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and Atlanta, Georgia. This could provide a quick escape for a kidnapper or even a human trafficker. There isn't really anything to suggest that these girls might have left on their own accord. Dannette and Jeannette were both good students, both in the 9th grade when they disappeared. They're described as African American females, both have black hair and brown eyes. Both Dannette and Jeannette's hair was styled in a shoulder-length cut at the time of their disappearance. Their ears are pierced. Dannette is also bow-legged and has a scar on her navel from a hernia removal operation that was performed shortly after birth. Dannette was wearing a white shirt with Mickey Mouse on it, white jeans, and black shoes. Jeannette was wearing a blue pullover shirt, a white turtleneck, a beige skirt, white stockings, and white sneakers. Dannette was about 5'6" tall, weighing around 130 pounds. Jeannette was just a tad shorter at 5'4" tall and weighing around 125 pounds. They were 15 years old on March 18th, 1990, when they vanished, and would today be 48 years old. Anyone with any information on Dannette and Jeannette Millbrook is asked to contact the Richmond County Sheriff's Office at 706-821-1096. Such a tragic story of two girls who vanished into thin air, and the family receiving no help at all from law enforcement for 23 years. There is a Facebook page set up for the girls you can follow at Missing Millbrook Twins in Augusta, $50,000 reward. I'll share those links on social media over the next week. Be sure you are following us over there. And please remember, you can always send me any case suggestions and feedback at canwefindthem@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to Dannette and Jeannette's stories today. We will be back again very soon with another unsolved missing person case. And until then, stay safe and hug your loved ones.